Ryan Elliott for Boxing News. We're in Newcastle. Ade Oladipo just watched Josh Kelly absolutely cruise to a unanimous decision win. Frustrating at times, but won every round.
Yeah, he did, but I mean, even speaking to him after, I think he probably realised he maybe needed to add something just a bit more. Like again, if we're thinking of him being that guy to challenge for a world title against some of the guys in those WBO rankings, is that enough? Is that enough? Like, as I'm watching it, and look, every boxer's got their own different style, but I'm thinking, what would Tim Tszyu have done to Corzo? What would even Xander Zayas, who I think's ranked number 4 with the WBO, done to Corzo? So, look, it was a solid performance. He won every single round. I think one judge or two had it 120, 107, so that's a complete shutout. But I felt like we maybe, and he would have hoped to have maybe got a stoppage. So that's the only disappointment. But look, I mean, you win every single round without really getting hurt or any cuts, so it's a good performance.
When you look at what's next for him, you know, they talked about him moving up to WBO number 1, maybe a 2 fight will be ordered if Charlo vacates the belts, but based on that, do you think he needs something else?
Yeah, I mean, I pushed them on that, and they seem more keen to have a domestic showdown of some sort. And there isn't really, I mean, obviously guys, there isn't really a 154-pound domestic guy to fight, right? He's beaten the number 1 in Troy Williamson, so they're looking for these almost catch-weight super fights, if you like, against, I mean, he mentioned Ben, Eubank, Jr, those are the names that have been mentioned. I just can't picture those fights happening. Look, Caller's got the job to do, he's the promoter. If he can't get those fights, then we might see another Corzo-like, someone that we don't know with a winning record. But yeah, I can't picture Kell Brook. You know, sometimes it almost has to be a bit of animosity for those fights to happen. And the crowd needs to want them. I haven't heard anyone scream for Kell Brook versus Josh Kelly. The Conor Benn one was there a couple of years ago when Josh Kelly was a 147-pound fighter. It's not there anymore, so don't know. I'm not quite sure what they do with him.
I think the frustration tonight, especially, you know, he did hurt him at one point. I think it was around the 7th round or so. Do you think we need, if he's going to go up to that level and compete with the twos, we need to see him put his foot on the gas a bit more and get rid of these kind of guys? Yeah,
one thing I will say in support of Josh is, I remember when he fought Troy Williamson. Troy was the one being the assertive and Josh was on the back foot fighting. I almost feel like Josh, if he does go to that world level and fight some of those guys that put it on him, I think Josh is a better back foot fighter and he can still cause them problems. I think when Josh is having to do it himself, maybe that's not the best Josh we see. If he does fight some of the big names, Tim Tszyu is the name that we always hear, Tim Tszyu will put it on him. And I think Josh off the back foot, look, obviously he favour Tim Tszyu, but I think Josh is a better back foot fighter than a front foot pressure fighter. And I think we saw that here tonight. When he did have Corzo hurt a couple of times, it then all became a bit showboaty, you know, landing the really good looking shots rather than just back him up and take him to the ropes and bash him up. But I don't know, you learn from it. Look, Corzo's an 18-0 unbeaten fighter. We don't know how good he is, but he's unbeaten. So that comes with its own problems, but he handled him very, very easily. What next, I don't know.
A couple of quick ones. From what I'm hearing, we're expecting a Eubank Smith announcement imminently, perhaps early next week. What happens in the rematch?
Smith again. I know that Eubank somehow added David Hay to the team. I'm not quite sure what that does. It's not worked, the Roy Jones experiment, and that's not a dig at Roy, but it's just not worked. And Smith is now, Smith must have gone into that first fight not knowing if he can hurt Eubank. Can he really hurt him? Not quite sure. He now knows he can knock him out. So yeah, I can't see anything but a Smith win. I'd actually like Eubank to win, because then it sets up a trilogy, which would be huge, but I think Smith will win again, and then I think that probably is that for Eubank. There was a lot of talk about Conor Benn, but you can't lose again and fight Conor Benn, so I don't know, this could probably be his last big paycheck. He'll go for it, but I just can't see how Smith doesn't beat him again.
Ade, thank you very much, as always, for making time for Boxing News.